Okay, well, keep going.
All right.
Okay, so
Okay.
to clarify for DOT, the fee in lieu is not for the swale. We want you to grade that swale out, and grade out that path if that's possible.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Um, so back to site design, and the other item was to reduce to the maximum extent, perhaps the driveway down to 20 feet wide. Also, lot number 2 is a flag lot, so would like you to revise the SOJ, the statement of justification, to include that as well. So those are the review team's major comments, and I'll just turn it over to the applicant now.
Hi, good morning. Peter Safari with McMillan Metro for the applicant, and we have GLW with us also. Tom, you want to introduce your team?
Yes, Tom Zyla with Gutchick, Lillen Weber, and with me is Kevin Foster and Dave Cha.
Yeah, and Dave Cha's here. Yeah, go ahead.
And Ted Longfellow.
And then we also have 3 reps from the applicant, Lee Admiral, Randy Thomas, and Walter Bowie. So thanks for the summary, Philip. And a lot of these we're either already looking at or we can address in some follow-up meetings. We did want to touch on a few of them. Tom, do you want to talk about the access width first?
Yes, the first one was there was a comment about a 24-foot access width coming off of Edna Road. With this being a church, we saw this more as a commercial entrance, which is why we made it the 30 feet. And we wanted to make sure there was ample room for people to get off of Edna Road and onto the property safely because of, the number of people going to the activity. So we were just wondering where that 24 feet came from. It seems pretty specific. We just didn't see a requirement for that.
I can talk a little bit more about that. This is just anyone with Up County Transportation. So we talk about reducing the driveway because, like, in our opinion, the driveway is like a little bit excessive. I see that I have a question actually. So if you're doing a 30-foot driveway, you will be doing 2 um travel lanes, right? Like true.
How many travel lanes will you have with 30 feet?
It's just going to be 2-way, 1 in, 1 out.
You can have a 2-way driveway with 12 feet wide travel lanes, and that will comply with the requirement under MCDOT and also with fire and rescue.
Right. So, or what we do is you have a 14-foot inbound lane and a 10-foot outbound lane. And that's like 24 feet is actually wider than what we are proposing on most projects.
Yeah.
So we want you to slow the vehicles down to get into the site so that when a sidewalk is there or something, they go slower.
Our goal is to minimize the width of the driveway for many reasons. These are some of the reasons. It also decreases imperviousness. It also decreases future costs to maintain that much amount of pavement. So there seems to be many reasons to have that driveway width minimized.
Okay, so to be clear, was it just the entrance from Edna to kind of the parking area being 24?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really want, I see you have another 30-foot travel lane or drive aisle when you make that right. And unless you need the fire department should be sufficient. These 30-foot travel lanes, the wider they are, the faster people go in them. And so in order to keep them narrow, you keep people going slower, you reduce the width of them. And then Marie LaBall, her requirements usually are the largest we want really you to go. So
some of
30 feet in there.
Okay, yeah, some of that was to allow for the possibility of buses to come in and kind of make that loop to drop people off at the church. So that's kind of where that started. Just for reference, why there's some other areas with the 30 feet.
And Dave and Tom, we also wanted to touch on the additional right-of-way for the bikeway and the swale.
Yes, I think all the requested changes to this section for Edna Road, I believe we can accomplish with another 5 to 7 feet. And we wanted to get confirmation from the agencies that they would accept a PIE to have either a portion or most of the side path and a PIE on the property.
It's a county roadway.
Correct.
Why can't, what is the reasoning for not giving it in roadway?
We have the proposed lot 1 is at the minimum acreage. That's one reason. The other reason is there. It's not labeled on the plan that's shown, but there's an existing building that our client is the applicant's looking to keep that. So that front 50-foot BRL, if we widen the right of way, that existing building would end up being in the BRL. So that would have to get demolished and rebuilt.
Okay. Where's the building? It's back further. It says existing SFD.
Yeah, there's another property that's, I guess, a little bit down and to the left of that that's hatched in as well. There's actually 2 structures currently on the property, and there's the client is looking at actually keeping that one, and it's pretty much right at the 50-foot line. So if that right-of-way line comes into the property more, we're going to be creating kind of an existing non-conforming use if we keep that structure. So that was
Just for my own clarification, I see an existing single-family detached home on the property, and I know that one is staying. Is that the one you're referring to?
well. There's actually 2, so I think the client was still kind of analyzing which one they wanted to keep, and it looks like it's the one that's closer to Edna Road is in better structural shape. So that was the one that they were looking at keeping.
Yeah.
And if you look at the plan, the lot 1 50-foot BRL is pretty much right at that existing structure.
Okay, and the 50-foot BRL comes from where? Is it the zoning ordinance or is it?
Yeah, with the zone, the RE2 zone, it's a 50-foot front BRL. And also, I mean, we are providing the 80-foot for Edna Road, and it is in line with other dedication along the roadway. Mostly to the west there, we pretty much kept that line and continued it up along our property.
Okay, but can you put that in writing with your next submission and we'll?
Sure.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It would be a PIE and PAE because PIE only allows for maintenance. So it's a PAE also over it. And then you'd have to extend your PUE further out 10 feet out back from that last easement.
Understood.
Okay. And wanted to touch on the flag lot, and thank you for that comment. And we'll submit further justification for a flag lot. I think we're on firm ground there, but I did want to just kind of step through the criteria. Philip, just initially, was there anything in particular that jumped out at you as a concern with justifying a flag lot, or was the comment more that we hadn't and ought to?
More the second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And so, we took a look at the criteria again, and we think we're on pretty firm footing there, given starting with what Tom was just talking about, the existing home location and trying to comply with BRLs on all sides while also making the parkland dedication. And then, you factor in the steep slopes also. I did have one question about the code. In the residential zone, there's an 80-foot separation requirement, and we read that to mean the 50-foot front BRL with the 35-foot rear BRL of lot 1. So, my question to the group is just for feedback. Is there any concern from staff if that's how we justify the 80-foot separation required by the code?
I'm not sure I follow you. Where,
In the flag lot and residential zones, yeah,
yeah,
go
there's
ahead.
the 80-foot separation.
So I'm focused on between the building envelope of the proposed flag lot and then B, the building envelope of all lots that are between the flag lot and the road on which it fronts. So in this case, we have 50-foot BRL on the proposed flag lot and then a rear 35-foot BRL between the lot line and the lot one building area. So that to me meets the 80 feet. That's what I'm asking about.
I believe so, but
Yeah.
we can take a look at this graphically. But I think what you're saying is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Typically, what we need to see is the dimension labeled on the plans. So the 80-foot dimension required by code needs to be labeled on the plans with an arrow so that we see from where to where you're measuring it.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's the most clear. And then the findings that are required in the code should also be addressed in your SOJ item
Yep.
by item so that we're all on the same page on how we're justifying the flag lot.
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
That does. And yeah, absolutely. When we submit an amended SOJ, we'll include that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Tom, you wanted to touch on sewer?
Yes. When we started this project, we were under the assumption that it was S6 and that we would need to propose septic fields. But through the review process, we understood that there was an error with that S6 determination to S1. And this was confirmed with Tim Williamson of DEP, and they are actually in the process of making that correction. So we are going to propose sewer connection for the church as well on lot 2. The structures on lot 1 currently have sewer connection and accounts with WSSC.
Yeah, you will need to. We didn't did a government review because when we received the email from Park and Planning, was like all were category 6, so we didn't did a review for this project. Another thing is probably you will need apply for a HPA, hydraulic planning analysis to the WCC for that
Yeah.
sewer.
Yes, we're already in the process of doing that. And
Okay.
we've been in contact with DEP, and we're just waiting for them to go through the correction process.
Okay, and then you will came to WCC. Okay, perfect.
And we will send WSSC a copy of the correction notice.
Thank you.
And I guess we can touch on the design comments too. So, in general, there were a few concerns on our end with the redesign that was sent across. So, we can follow up separately in a little more detail, but just in general, number one, acknowledging that, if we end up retaining the other existing building rather than the one that's shown on our initial submission, then that kind of changes the direct view analysis and also, just the overall layout. But really, the church had some desire for consistency in the neighborhood of keeping this design of the church a little further back than the existing single family residence. It was actually kind of intentionally designed that way for more consistency with some of the larger estate lots in the area. And more importantly, there is also a concern about having having parking on both sides of the building, insofar as it might present a safety issue for children crossing around through the various parking areas. So there were some sightline issues internally that we were concerned about. Functionally, also, there's a concern about the location of the gathering area, just for the church's purposes. The location that they proposed was more appropriate for the functions of the gathering area, and that's really a congregation driven. It's not really a code question as much as it is a question of how the church will intend to use its kind of ceremonial gathering sites. So I just wanted to point those out. Tom, was there anything that you wanted to build on there about the design?
Also, just the connection with Lot 1, it seemed to kind of disconnect, you
Right.
know, kind of the functionality between the two lots.
So we will continue looking at it, but we did have those initial concerns versus our proposal.
Hi,
Yeah, one.
sorry, this is Roberto. In terms of location, I mean, with many like rural churches and everything, one of the prominent features is having kind of that green space leading up to the church and having those visibility views. So, I think that's one of the reasons we looked at shifting the church up so it's more prominent from to the street, the views to the street and everything. And in terms of the idea that there may be safety issues, I would tend to disagree in terms of having, um, just a little bit of parking to the side of the church behind, at least flush with the building. Um, I think it's important, we don't want to start creating a series of parking lots. This road is fairly rural looking. Um, so we don't want to create the idea of not I don't want to say a strip shopping center, but just that we don't want to create that as a prominent feature along the roadway because we think that would change the character of the road. This is a fairly different from a single family home with a driveway of some sort. So this is a much more prominent feature.
Yeah, I think this is Paul Mortensen in the director's office here. I think one of the primary elements that Roberto just mentioned was to make sure that the parking is either to the side or set back from the buildings. And so it is not the first thing that you see when you're entering the site from the road. Likewise, I think we totally agree with you on the character and sort of the setback in relation to houses along this street. We are very much aware of the character of the street and want that maintained, and thought it might be better. Uh, um, we're suggesting the building. Actually, we haven't moved the building up at all in this drawing from where you had shown it, but the parking is what is moved. And so the possibility is just what we were showing is that, the church could be sort of a proud participant of the street with a plaza or gardens in front facing towards the road, possibly having a better relationship with the house, with either gardens or plazas, and then with the parking set behind it. So that was the primary sort of focus of this sketch. Just another idea. With the way it was located behind the house, it sort of overpowers the house from the street. If you are looking that way, and so we just thought it might be nice to have its own sort of campus look, behind the green, sort of the character of this rural area.
The other thing is also with this layout, by having the church standing on its own, it also means that if you ever decide to redevelop the existing home or rebuild or change that, then it kind of functions separately. It acts separately from the church building. They're not one and the same. So it gives you a little bit more freedom then to do something different with the existing house sometime down the road later. if you so choose to do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's appreciated. And like I said at the start, we're gonna take a little more time to look at it. We've only, started to scratch the surface in considering the comments. I do think though there's going to be a little bit of friction also with the church's privacy goals, which again is more of a church function than anything else. So, we'll have to look at it internally and, make a few decisions about what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just the location could go anywhere you want. Set back the way it is set back. The big point, I think the primary point we're also trying to make is that the parking needs to be moved back away from the road.
All right. Yeah, we have a few individual follow-ups that we'll make. But Tom, is there anything else you want to bring up while we're here?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask WSSC very quickly, if it's in the interest of time, can we go ahead and submit the HPA while the category change is pending, just so that doesn't delay the client moving forward?
Uh, let me ask. I think I will need to talk with the division manager and get it approved because it's in our code. But I think this can be something that we can allow it. Can you send me an email so I can send it to my division manager and then respond it to you?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter, the only other thing was, possibly the park dedication, and we can talk with parks later, but it looks like we can make some revisions to the limits of the conveyance to allow for the trail outside of the Stream Valley buffer. But we can kind of coordinate that a little bit later.
That sounds great. That's the main thing. And yeah, I think you guys have this is Henry with Parks. You guys have my info, so we can work.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Henry. Yeah, we saw your comment, and we figured that it would make more sense to follow with you separately, since we'll need to talk about what exactly the change that you're suggesting is. But we did, just for framing the conversation, what we proposed. This applicant, or rather this property, had been through a DRC on a concept plan for residential a few years ago, and so we used as kind of the working model what was appropriate in that case. So that's where we started, but certainly willing to have an extra conversation about it.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah. No. Generally speaking, this is following that. This is looking right. It's just about making some small adjustments to make
sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost there.
So, thank you guys.
Okay. Appreciated. All right.
Just one other thing. In terms of environmental, we understand that we need to afforest the Stream Valley buffer, but there are some areas that do have some existing native trees that we would be looking to get credit for, and we'd like to work with the environmental group to possibly, meet out there to determine what can actually be saved. While they did qualify for forest, they definitely, is what you want growing down in that area. So we just like to coordinate that effort in the future.
This is Doug Johnson, environmental reviewer. Yeah, I'm fine with meeting you on the site. You need to call that area out on the plan, though. It was highlighted on the NRIFSD as off-site forest on the property, but that never transitioned over to the FCP. And a lot of that tree covered is Bradford pear. So we need to, get clear on which area of trees you're talking about. Now,
Sure.
if you have that, the forest that's off-site that encroaches on site, and it's if it's a native mix, then we can retain that portion of forest, add to it, and count it as forest. So
Understood.
that is definitely a road to go down. I'm more than willing to meet you on site.
Yeah, we just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is some good stuff there that we can use, and it's already established and more mature. So I think it would help the growth of the new stock as well.
Right, I agree.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's fine. Thank you all very much for your time.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank
I
you.
just want
Okay.
to
Thank you.
remind you, the first resubmittal is due on December 4th, to maintain the tentative planning board date of February 27th. So first resubmittal is due 12/4. The second final submittal is due December 17th.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All
Bye.
right, bye.
My name is Christina Sorrento. I'm the chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for Rickman property. Your lead reviewer is Jeff Server. The purpose of this meeting is for you to ask any questions based upon the comments that you received last week. Jeff will just highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Go ahead, Jeff.
And thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is the Rickman property. It's located off of Woodfield Road. It is for the Potomac Valley Brick Company, and they're looking at putting in a new facility. It's for a roughly 7-acre site, and it is zoned IL. And it's meeting most of the zoning requirements. The major issues on this one are primarily transportation related as far as frontage improvements. In terms of design, there are a few comments to add. Probably the most notable would be the building relationship. And while this is a preliminary plan, it is important to note that any building that's going to provide frontage along Woodfield Road would be really nice to have that building relate to that frontage so that it really provides a stronger presence and edge along Woodfield Road. So the other comment is related to landscaping. There's a serpentine path, which is within their amenity open space. And so the serpentine path, there are some stormwater facilities to the west, closer to Woodfield Road. In that space between the serpentine path, it would be nice to see some abundant landscaping placed in there. And then additionally, it would be nice to explore providing street trees out along closer to Woodfield Road. Outside of that, I'm going to actually turn it over to our transportation reviewer so he can address some of the comments on frontage improvements.
All right, thanks, Jeff. This is Nick Peavy, transportation planner. So yeah, the frontage improvement question is in relation to the sidewalk. We need to see a 6-foot. Sorry. Oh,
No.
Oh, keep going.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. So we'd like to see a 6-foot wide sidewalk section along Woodfield Road. And then additionally, the current amount of buffer between the sidewalk and the road is not quite enough. And so in discussions, we have recommended that, we move the sidewalk further towards the property line to accommodate the full right-of-way of Woodfield Road if it is ever widened. So working within the existing right-of-way, just moving the sidewalk, over and maintaining maintenance buffer. But that's the general comment for the frontage improvements. There was a small question about parking, but if my comment wasn't clear, please let me know. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Nick. Then I'm going to turn it over to environmental for any comments.
Yeah, this is Doug Johnson, environmental. Most of my comments on the FCP were technical in nature, and then change this, change that. The one thing I am checking into, because I heard about this after my comments were completed, is the need for an impervious surface plan. Even though this may not make sense, because the under the overlay zone for the Upper Rock Creek, this site would be exempt from the impervious surface cap of the overlay zone because it is in the IL zone. But the question came up internally, do we need an impervious surface plan anyway to take to the board? So I'm checking on that, and I will get back with you.
Great, thank you, Doug. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over for any questions.
I'm sorry, this is DOT. Did you talk about the width of the driveway entrance? It's 30 feet as well.
No, I didn't.
Okay, so if you can reduce that down to 24 feet?
Which drive? Sorry.
The driveway coming off the road.
The northern one, how about the southern one? What is that one okay? Are you saying that one is?
I didn't look at that one, but
So
We can look to make sure they're both 24 feet. I see the north one is 30 feet. I can't tell here what the southern one is, but we'll make sure they're both at least 24 feet or less.
Wait, are you saying you want them to be at least 24 feet or you want them narrowed to no more than 24 feet? Yeah, so I think Rebecca is asking that they not be wider than 24 feet, not
Yeah.
that they're a minimum of. Okay,
Yeah, 24 feet or less. Yep.
okay.
Sorry, that's what I thought I said that. I may have misspoke.
I think at the end it was a minimum, and then I just want to make sure we're understanding each other.
Yep, appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Glad to be here with you this morning. I would like to first introduce Don Westmunsky. He's the CFO and project representative for Potomac Valley Brick. He's joining us on this call. Please, Don, if anytime you want to, ask a question, please feel free. And good. And then joining me today is my colleague, Dylan Macro, project manager at MHG, and I'm Trevor Hughes, a project manager at MHG. And I've really appreciated the comments that you have sent out, and in particular the spirit of collaboration that I've already found on your teams with working with Maria Laval and Andrew Kohler. So that's wonderful. I know we all do better when we're collaborating together. So I appreciate your leadership in that area. So thank you. Good. Well, in regards to the comments that you put forth, I think most of them, the large majority, were in agreement with you all. The landscaping, serpentine path landscaping, I think that's a great idea. We'll incorporate that in our landscaping plan. We'll explore the street trees as you guys have suggested, and then also Nick with the transportation. Making that sidewalk 6 feet and then shifting it closer to the property line. We're able to look into doing that, and now also the 24-foot entrances. We'll check that out as well. I know in terms of comment 27, which has to do with the revision of the water quality plan. This is something that I think I'm going to have to take some time with Andrew, probably outside of this meeting, because I think we have a revised water quality plan, but because of the confusing history of this project, a revision of a revision, I think that kind of has gotten lost in the shuffle. So I'll just take that with Andrew, probably outside of this meeting, and I think we'll be able to address that very easily there. The next comment that I think we wanted to seek more clarity on is the first one that you brought up there, Jeff, which is comment number 32, which is, at the time of design, the building will need to relate to the street upon which it fronts. If you could explain that maybe a little bit more detail for us, probably provide more clarity on that comment, that would be wonderful.
Sure, Trevor. Happy to. Right now, again, this is a preliminary plan, so the placement and the actual layout of the building it's more illustrative than actually, identifying what that would be. Looking at the footprint as it is suggested right now, it looks like it's set back quite a ways from Woodfield Road, and it's kind of turned, so there isn't really like an edge facing the street. So ideally, it would be something that would be parallel, pushed closer towards the street, so that it looks like it's providing a physical edge and boundary to the street.
Okay, is that coming from kind of a desire of maybe this could be a great idea to improve the site plan, or is this coming from kind of to meet some of the zoning requirements of the site?
No, it's not tied to zoning. It's just tied to just general layout, general design.
Okay. Would it be helpful? I know we've got some renderings that we didn't really submit in the package because I guess typically those aren't really needed. Would it be helpful to see some of those renderings?
Sure, that would be great.
To kind of see, because
great.
Architecturals put a lot of time in trying to make that frontage beautiful. And in particular, if you see there's the material storage portion and that serpentine walkway, there's going to be a nice kind of brick facade walls along that side that I think is going to provide some nice, beautiful frontage there. that incorporated with the tilt of the building may be something that you might agree might fulfill that. So I'm hearing you say that would be good for me to send that to you, and that'll
Yes,
help.
that would be, yeah, we'd be happy to take a look at that.
Perfect. Good. Dylan, anything else on that comment that you feel like we should bring up? That was really, I mean, all the discussion that I wanted to have with you guys today. Is there anything else, Don or Dylan, that you guys want to bring to the table while we're all here?
Yeah, I was just going to point out, sorry, that to add to that comment, I think part of the challenge is, and I don't think anyone from the architects team is on the call today, but we will talk to them after today's DRC, but we were handcuffed a little bit or restricted a little bit by the stormwater management facilities you see there along the property line. Like Trevor mentioned, those are part of a previous approval. We were trying to keep the layout and the general stormwater concept in the same kind of alignment in configuration as it was originally approved. And I think that's partially driving some of the building layout as well. So anyway, we'll get with Mark Banta, the architect, and talk about some options we have there. And Trevor will send over the renderings. And it may be a good idea, Jeff, to have just a quick follow-up call with the four of us just to talk through some of the expectations before we resubmit.
Sounds good.
Trevor, I had something I wanted to add before we finish the meeting. There was, looking at the history of previous approvals, there seems to be a site plan that covers a portion of the site. And I'm not sure if you all looked at it already, and if you have answers. We haven't had a chance to dig up all those documents and history, but we will need to address that and see if in fact a portion of the site is covered by a site plan. We'll need to address that as part of this review. And I don't know if that means an amendment to the other site plan in order to remove this geography from the site plan, or if there are other options.
Do you have a plan number?
I'm pulling that up now. Give me a second. So I'm on MC Atlas, and I'll just I'll look at it just a second here.
I can do that. I'm on zoning actually.
While you do that, Doug had a quick question.
Hey, Trevor, this is Doug Johnson. Clear up my confusion for me. On the water quality plan, is it a revised submission you're doing, or is this a brand new water quality plan?
Yeah, so so the history there is, of course, there was a previous preliminary plan that went all the way through and got approved. And then the property was sold. And when the property was sold, there was the client wanted a different layout to the site. And so through the process working with parking planning, it was determined that the changes were sufficient enough to warrant going through the preliminary process again. However, when in their discussions with DPS around the water, quality concept, we decided that we could actually go about the changes by revising that original stormwater management that was approved. So we submit a revised copy, a revised plan, excuse me, that was with the new preliminary plan layout, and that was approved some months ago.
Thank you.
Here is WSSC. We were not able to review your project this time because this plan doesn't have a HPA. And the HPA that was approved in 2021 is a different layout that you have right now.
It is a different layout, but I think the use is lower, so the demand would be lower.
Well, we also have, we've also done, we have an SCP that has been approved and should have an associated HPA. Is that approved, Trevor?
It's very close to approval.
Yeah. And I believe you signed up. You went through the WCC government referred plan review, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't that have come up at the initial? Because normally we can't submit the payment for the government referred plan review without having the HPA.
You get through the invoice, but doesn't our intake team doesn't send a plan for review to anyone because they didn't find an HPA related to this project.
We have.
So,
I mean, we have.
Maybe
Well,
let's have a conversation outside of this meeting, and maybe I can talk with intake and check what the HPA look like and your projects. But it's what the information I get from my intake.
Okay. Yeah. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is correct, like you said, that the HPA doesn't change that much, and is lower. The demand is lower now with the new layout. I will provide your comments in an email. Okay. That works.
Okay. Appreciate it.
So just to make sure I'm clear, would you like to have a follow-up meeting after this, kind of discuss this in more detail, or?
No.
No. Okay.
Like the last, I have these two projects in a row that send me email. So with information like the number of your FPA, your SCP,
Okay.
and then I'll respond that. And then I will send you, and everything is okay. I will send you the comments to you and the lead reviewer and park and planning with our comments.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. In the meantime, were we able to discover if there was the number for the site plan?
Yeah, I have it here. Well, we will review, Sandra, and then I guess we'll have to follow up with you and Jeff.
Yes, Trevor, I just put it on the chat for the DRC meeting, so you should have it as well. It's 8/1985/1140 called Montgomery Air Park Business Center. It's an old site plan, so it obviously didn't cover a whole lot of information, but the geography seems to cover a portion of this property. So let's take some time to look at it and then come back and see what we're gonna do about it.
Yeah, that is curious to me. I know we had a previously approved preliminary plan. Do you remember that coming up or having to be dealt with through that process?
It's been a while and I don't recall off the bat.
Okay.
Yeah, let's look at that as well.
Yeah, great.
Do you have any additional questions for any of the other agencies while we still have some time?
I'm not sure that I do. I just want to make sure I'm walking away with what I need to. I know, Jeff, I'm going to send you the architectural and then maybe we can get on a call together with the architect.
Yeah, that would be great.
So that'll be a follow-up with you. I know we'll send WSCC information they require.
Can I jump in here real quick? I'm just reading the resolution on that plan. It says the planning board approves site plan number 819851114B for the removal of subject property from the previously approved site plan because the zoning ordinance no longer requires site plan approval for the approved land use in the IL 1.0 H50 zone. Is that?
Which
It's on,
which resolution?
It's on SP3. It's on the actual approved plans for 8/1 9851114B.
B, so the B
B.
amendment, okay.
Yeah, that removes, I think that B amendment removes the subject property from the actual site plan, is the way that I'm reading it.
Okay, wonderful. Let's look at it together and maybe we have the answer right there. I know there's a number of documents that have to be reviewed and we'll make sure to see that one.
Sure.
If you can send me that link or that document, that would save time.
Can you send as the sheet?
What sheet?
Plan sheet.
Okay, let's look at it.
Yeah, I can send it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
I am the chief of the intake and regulatory coordination. And this is the DRC meeting for MHP Amherst. The lead reviewer is Troy Leftwich. The purpose of this meeting is to answer any questions based on the comments that you received last week. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Troy will highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to the applicant. He's in the process of bringing up the plan right now. So go ahead, Troy.
First, like to thank you for bringing in this project. I think we're all like excited about seeing this project come forward for the next steps. As everybody knows, it's got a lot of moving pieces. Just kind of did a short overview. This is the MHP Amherst project, which is providing 282 total units between two multifamily buildings, 39 townhouses, 42,000 square feet of the Art and Cultural Center, 20,000 square feet of office, and 39 townhouses, and a total of, I think it's 452 structured parking garages within the parking garages. Or spaces within the parking garage. Think, like I said, some of the major components is really just trying to understand the different dynamics of the phasing. As we know that the 50 existing affordable housing units need to be those residents need to be relocated into the Amherst Square existing area here. That's for the future parkland. Also within that, once that's constructed, those folks needs to be relocated into the new multifamily building. So we're just trying to get an understanding of that time frame, then also the unloading of the Art and Cultural Center, things that are more so tied to the project but not directly to the project. But we know we're going to get a lot of questions in and around those elements as part of the review. Outside of that, I know we had a lot of design comments. We want to probably set up some future meetings within the next couple of weeks, and being sensitive to the holiday schedule. Outside of that, I think, I'll turn it over to the applicant to kind of highlight some of their issues so that we can be productive within the DRC.
Thank you, Troy. This is Pat Harris with Lortrelli and Brewer. Good morning, everyone. So you are correct that I think a next step is going to be setting up a design meeting, and I'll summarize our design comments in a couple moments. And then also in terms of the phasing, we don't have all that information this morning, but we will be providing that when we resubmit so that staff has a good handle on the transfer of the properties and the timing. I'm going to start with probably what's the most important issue to us, which is this issue of undergrounding the utilities along Elkin. And I'll say that our position hasn't changed on this since the sketch plan. And you may recall that at the sketch plan we shared with the planning board, our concern about the significant cost associated with the undergrounding, the fact that it's not required by the master plan, the fact that Complete Streets provides optionality when it comes to undergrounding. And on a project like this, it just becomes prohibitively expensive. So our position hasn't changed on that. I know we'll probably have further dialogue with staff on that. We're in the process of trying to get a better handle on what those costs are, but I can tell you that it's over 7 figures. We know that. And so that's going to be an issue that we're going to have to continue to discuss, and it may be that the planning board needs to make a final determination on that one. There was a comment about bike parking that we had calculated 100, we had based our bike parking on 100 spaces based on the two buildings. And the comment was that we needed to calculate each building separately. Before we provided the ultimate number of bike spaces or proposed the ultimate number, MHP had checked with their property managers who indicated that providing 100 total was going to be more than plenty. And our concern in providing more, since they're not going to be needed, is it ends up eating into amenity space, including the teleworking amenity space, which is used when it's not used during the day for teleworking. It's also a kids classroom for their homework club and their after school program. So in balancing the various amenities, that the smarter course of action here is to apply for a bike waiver to reduce the numbers so that we are providing that, so that we can go forward with the 100 that we were proposing, 60 in one building and 40 in the other. So we hope that there'll be support for that. There was a comment about providing a shuttle bus / loading plan. I first want to make clear there's no shuttle bus involved in this project. There will be, and we talked about this a number of times at the community meetings, school buses that will drop off children to the Arts and Cultural Center along the private drive. So we will prepare a plan that shows how that will work, and that when the loadings or unloading is occurring, that there's still adequate room for circulation. And we'll also include a loading plan on that. But I do want to emphasize also with that, and we've said this before, there's no parking of the buses on site. And I think staff understands that, but I think the community, there was some question about that. So once children get dropped off here for some type of function, the bus goes elsewhere to park. There was a suggestion that we use the townhouse lots as interim open space. So we will look into that, though. When we originally, the towns, we thought there was going to be a whole lot more distance between when the towns go forward and when the multifamily goes forward. That may no longer be the case. Not clear on that, but if the towns are moving more quickly, then that recommendation is somewhat moot. If they are going to be staggered, our plan was to provide grass for stabilization of this area, but we're not going to be doing final grading in the area because of the having to preserve the drainage during that interim period of time. So we can certainly provide passive space, but there's not going to be any grading to make it allowed for like excessive tot lots or anything like that. And we don't want to be in a position of putting in any type of permanent equipment that then we have to rip out in a couple of years. Screening of garages. We are looking into that to see what may be feasible, as we are with some of the other design comments. It certainly is not going to be an architectural occupiable liner. And to the extent that the garages need some type of decorative feature, we believe that the northern facade is probably the more important one to focus on. But I think we should add that to our list of when we have our design meeting, as Troy suggested.
Yeah, Pat, this is Natasha. To clarify on that, so I agree, like northern side of the garage is more important, and I mentioned like active uses on the ground floor. I know adding units is kind of like infeasible there, but maybe like one suggestion would be like if you have bike facility storage that can have like a storefront to help activate that frontage, that would be preferable. But if that's not, and the study shows that it's not, then we are fine with the architectural screening. And then on the southern side, since it's less important, any sort of like a flat artwork for the southern facade would be acceptable as well. Just want to clarify on that comment.
Okay, thank you. And we'll look into that further and keep those comments in mind. We're reviewing the architectural comments. There were a lot of them. It's my understanding that one of the things that was most important to staff was the view of the northwest corner of the building as seen when one is traveling south on Georgia Avenue.
Correct.
And I think if Natasha, if you can provide a little bit more insight into what your objectives are. And I ask that question because, as you know, as you're traveling south on Georgia, you can't access, there's no median cut. And so, so while it might not, so once you pass the building, obviously you'll get the benefit of the facade as we're proposing it. It's just that if you're further north, it may not read as prominent. So I'm not
Yeah,
sure what you're trying to get at.
Yeah, I can clarify on that, Pat. So, like, first of all, like, we haven't received any rendering. So I found some of those rendering online through your community emails, community meetings and stuff. So it was really hard to understand the facade by just like a 2D dimension drawings. So like this type of rendering would be very helpful if you your team can add it onto the second submission. So the rendering on the left side, it like that's a great way of like coming to, like approaching the site from the south, and you get the feel of that like civic use when you are driving from south to north, but you don't get the same feeling when you're coming north to south. So we thought that like that northern western corner side, like above the lobby, like on the roof line, maybe some decorative roof line can be added on that corner. I think where the cursor is through all the way on the roof. Like one great example is the project on Spring Street, like our old headquarters, like the grocery store and apartment there. I think they did a great job on the roof line to like create some sort of like a visual impact. So that's what we were looking for, and the comments kind of summarizing it that in that sense. And I think I added a lot of exhibit with to help understanding the comments. So I hope that would be helpful for your design team.
Okay, that and what you just explained is helpful. When we have the design meeting, our architects will be there as well, and so we can further noodle some things.
Sure.
In terms of the mid-block connection, I can't tell you how much time we've spent on that, believe it or not. That definitely needs more discussion. We understand your objectives, and I think our objectives are no different than yours, but there may be a little bit of a disagreement on how best to achieve them. For instance, we went back and forth thinking, okay, should there be benches within this area? But we didn't want to create something given the activities that are occurring in that area currently. We didn't want to add features that would just draw people there to hang out and cause no good. So I think
maybe lighting will create a safer, like when there is light, then those activities will diminish or reduce. So anything that helps people using that through block connection, that it was recommendation through the sector plan, we would like to see those. So I understand the seating might be something that you might not want to consider, but lighting, I think, would be, and creating a safer environment. And like
and yeah, and we were focusing on lighting as well, actually, but yep.
Sure, yeah. So we can further discuss that on the design comments, but you're more leaning toward like creating a safer pathway, because that's the shortest walk from the future park on the east all the way to Georgia Avenue to get to the buses. That's the objective.
Okay. Yeah, and I will just also add that walkouts along that facade aren't because of the grade, and also other concerns are not possible.
Yeah, but any type of like fenestration that creates like a eye on that path would be helpful. Even
and
though
I
the
think
walkout cannot like get out of their unit, but like I saw in the elevation that there are a lot of windows there. But as you are coming down, then there is one story tall blank wall, so it's gonna be scary walking along those blank wall. Like as you're coming down to Elkins, the elevation suggested like one floor blank wall. So we are hoping that your design team can come up with some solution to eliminate those.
Okay. Then moving to the fire lane, there was sounds like there's the goal of activation of that area. So again, we can put that on the list for the design meeting. I would note, there was a comment about walkouts, and those are difficult on the multifamily building, but the townhouses are going to be facing the fire lane. So one side of, there is going to be activity there for sure from the townhouses that are fronting it. And so then I think it's a matter of how we design that open space.
Yeah, again, like the same as true block connection, like the goal here is to create like active uses. So we would like to see more detail, like a landscaping detail of how your team is designing that kind of like triangle space between the townhomes and yeah, right there. So how that can be designed for like people to easily like sit down, enjoy the outdoor space, if there is a space for kids to like play or flats, lawn area. So all of those help activating that open space. And we're glad to see that those townhomes gonna have like a direct access to the fronts, to the fire lane. So that would be very helpful. But again, there are a lot of blank walls on the apartment side, which we were hoping that some of those active uses can be achieved on the ground floor. I know that grading is really difficult, but I think as you're coming down to Elkins, I noticed there are a lot of windows on that. So any sort of like even patios, if the grading doesn't help you to create outdoor kind of like a walkout units, maybe some sort of like outdoor patios for ground floor units can help like activate that site, that like the western side of the fire lane. But again, we can discuss it with your design team further.
Okay. Anyone on our design team, do you have any, at this point, follow-up questions for Natasha on the fire lane area? Or do you want to wait till our meeting? I'm going to take that as we'll wait to the meeting.
Yeah, let's wait.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then moving to Georgia Avenue, again, the goal of enlivening the streetscape, we understand that. We can't reprogram the interior of the building. I can't, the DGS and MHP has spent a lot of time figuring out the Cultural Arts Center. So in our mind, our focus will be on the exterior and the public use space there. We are working to coordinate with WMATA. And as you probably know, that can sometimes be challenging, but we'll focus on the public use space along Georgia Avenue. And then the last design thing that we can add to our list for our design meeting is the comment about the north-south connection going over to the Leesboro community. And I mean, we had discussed this after one of our last meetings with staff, and there's about where that connection should be. And I think there's some challenges given the stormwater facilities on the north side of the street, but we can discuss that more when we meet. A handful of miscellaneous items. One was trying to add a tot lot in with the multifamily. We will look into that somewhere, in that area. And then there was a comment about potentially coordinating or adding bump outs along Elkins. We need to coordinate with DOT on that in conjunction with both the speed study and the pedestrian crossing. Which actually then that leads me to the segue of the traffic study. There were comments on the traffic study. We had a separate meeting about a week ago with transportation staff, and our traffic consultant is finalizing the traffic study. So hopefully that will be back in within the week. And then the final comment I would make is one of the things that we are looking at, and partly because of moving forward, and partly based on our discussion with DHCA about the allocation and distribution of the MPDUs, is adding the townhouses in with this site plan, so that we have one site plan. It may be a phased site plan, but it seems that it may make more sense to include the townhouse portion in. So we have one site plan covering the entire project. As you know, the preliminary plan is for the entire project. And Troy and I had spoken about that recently, that likely will be the direction that we head. So with that, I don't know, John or Dylan or anyone else from the MHP team, any other comments or additions that I neglected to mention?
You kind of started to mention it right there, but I wasn't sure if we wanted to discuss the whole MIHC thing, or is that just not something we want to talk about at this time? No?
I can mention it. And that I mean, just so that sort of full disclosure to staff, we are thinking, and quite honestly, it's based, one of the reasons is the transportation issues and the proportionality burden. We may pivot and submit this as an MIHC project. And I don't know if I may be catching folks off guard with that comment, but I actually think maybe when we set aside time for this design meeting, if we could spend a couple minutes discussing what that may look like, that would be helpful.
Yeah, Pat, this is Matt. Happy to talk about that with you. I think we've had at least one other project that's already had sketch plan approval start to evaluate whether or not it makes sense to go the mixed income. What we started calling the MIC plan.
I'm smiling because yesterday I was like, I wish there was an acronym for this because it's weirdly pronounced. But go ahead. Okay.
And so they were starting to explore it for different reasons, but ultimately decided not to do that because it would involve abandoning your sketch plan approval because it's a completely different family of approvals. So I don't know if there's a way to basically say that it's a MIC eligible plan, that it meets those 4 criteria that are set in the code, and also get the exemption that's allowed in the LATR, or, I guess under the GIP. So maybe we can unpack that a little bit if you're really just after that one piece. If it meets that criteria, does it also then meet the exemption under the GIP? So that's a thought, but we can certainly unpack that.
And one other thing to note, Pat, is that there is language in the GIP resolution that you can elect to use the new GIP as long as you're going after January 1st.
Yes.
Might be another consideration.
Well, under the new GIP, wait, just so I'm clear, under the new GIP, the MIC would be exempt from the proportionality guideline requirement.
Yeah, but there's other changes, even if you aren't a mixed income housing plan, that you might want to just consider.
Okay. Who, and I'm sorry, who was speaking just then?
That's Richard.
Richard, okay. Richard and Matt, maybe I actually think that it may be helpful for me to set up a call with the two of you separately from the design thing so I can get a little smarter on this and we can talk about what our objectives are and see if it's workable.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. And one other consideration is that if you were to go under the MIC process, it would be new noticing, new community meeting. So just would have to kind of restart that process. It would be withdrawing these applications and then resubmitting under the expedited plan. So there are a lot of pieces that go into that, just for your consideration.
Yes, okay. And that was one of the things that we were discussing internally yesterday, which is it's always hard to abandon a plan before you have another one, an approval, in this case, a sketch plan, before you have another approval in hand. So we need to think about that too. Okay, I will reach out to the two of you. Maybe we can get a call for later in the week on that issue. And then Troy, do you want me to provide you some dates for the design meeting, or do you want to shoot me some dates?
Yeah, because I know you were mentioning that the townhouses might be part of it, so I don't know if, you wanted that to be part of the discussion. So it'd be good for you to provide some times and dates, and then we can go from there, since sounds like you might need some more time to get some material together to discuss.
Okay. we will do that.
Oh,
Okay, go
That's
ahead.
the only thing too with the interim space. I think it'd be good just to go ahead and show that on a landscaping detail. I know it's just we're talking about a planted grass area, but just having that as part of the plan set because we can always not certify that or exclude it in the long term if something changes in the future. But just having that as part of your approval, I think will help limit some. If in case you want to do that in the future, we don't have to do like some post approval ad that wasn't shown. So just having it in there, I think would be helpful as part of the landscaping details.
Okay, Dylan, you got that?
As a supporting document?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, we're not preparing the landscape plans, but we'll coordinate with Studio 39 and make sure it gets into the system.
Yeah, Studio 39's on the call too. We got it.
Okay, good. Okay. Anything else from the MHP team? I appreciate, I think Troy said it at the very beginning, and I'll end with it. You know, obviously affordable housing is important. We are looking forward to proceeding with this project. It will bring a lot of needed housing to the county. So we appreciate your willingness to work with us as we move forward. Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you for your time, and we'll be, I'm going to shoot Richard and Matt an email in a moment for some times where we can talk.
Yeah, Pat, please include Troy and Aaron Fowler on that email as well.
Okay, will do. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
thank you.
Bye.
Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for DeCloverly. Your lead reviewer is Emily Tettlebaum. And this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Emily will start off with just mentioning any large items we should talk about and then turn it over to the applicant for questions. Go ahead, Emily.
Thanks, Christina. Thanks for submitting this concept plan. In our comments, we've kind of outlined the process you would need to go through if you want to amend the existing site plan to add any parking spaces. There are some environmental constraints near some of the spaces that are proposed along the south side here. So I included a an image that shows where a stream is kind of roughly located in this area. And so the first step you would need to do is to do a natural resource inventory and forest stand delineation to determine exactly where the stream is and where the buffers are, because that would really would show us where those features are, because the parking would not be allowed within any of the buffers. So that would be kind of the first step. Our comments were a little bit vague because we didn't have a lot of information to go on here. It does look like the area available to add parking spaces is pretty limited, and would largely be determined by where those environmental buffers are. So you have all our comments, and we are happy to answer any questions you have.
Hi, Emily. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Amy. I'm the president of the DeCoverly HOA. So yeah, I saw the comment about the forest stand delineation and the natural resources inventory. I think it needs to be submitted to Steve Findley, right?
I made the comment.
He made
Oh,
the comment. You would need to submit it to the planning department.
Oh, okay. Do you know how to do that? How we would go about doing one of these NRI/FSD?
You typically have to find a qualified preparer. They are listed on the Maryland DNR website. And once you hire them, they would you would make it. They would have to prepare the plan according to the requirements of the Forest Conservation Law, and it would be submitted to our Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And there's a lot of information on the planning department's website. So if you went to the website and looked under, I think it's focus areas or something like that is the tab that drops down that allows you to find the environmental tab. And then you can follow that to the information about, actually, probably the better way to do it would be go to the development tab and look for the applications drop down for forest conservation plans.
Okay, so to do that from the planning website?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm looking at the other comments. So we would need, and then for the Washington Gas, okay, we would just go to their website to get that. For the utility drawings, showing I'm looking at the Pepco comment. Please provide the utility drawing showing the existing and proposed electrical. How do we do that?
I don't know if anybody from Pepco is on the line. This is Matt Folden. I'm the regulatory supervisor for Mid-County. What you would need to do is coordinate with Pepco and also probably get a civil engineer on your consultant team to prepare the plans to show where the existing utilities are. This is information that we would need to see in order to support or deny the project.
Okay. So coordinate with the civil engineer to find out where the existing utilities are?
Yes.
And that would probably be the person who would prepare your site plan amendment.
Okay. Are all of these the rules, I guess, just for the pull-in spaces? Would we still need to do those for the proposed parallel spaces on the map?
Yes, you'd need to include whatever changes you'd like to make to your site plan within the amendment proposal. And it would need to take into account whether you had sufficient space for fire access. I think I don't think Marie's on the line today.
No, she said she couldn't be.
Yeah, but typically you need to maintain 20 feet clear for fire access. You would need to quantify any areas that you'd need to expand the paving. You can go up to a certain limitation before you trigger stormwater management and sediment control. So you would need to quantify all the changes you'd like to make.
Okay. Ian, do you have any questions or comments?
No, the only question I have, so I'm one of the board members along with Amy. I think you covered it, Amy. I was more concerned about the lower right half where we have the convert parallel to pulling spaces to see if we needed. I don't think there's a stream running back through there to see if we still needed to complete that form that was mentioned earlier.
So there is a stream that runs back through here. I think
Is
Steve,
there? Okay.
yeah, he's actually been out there and seen the stream, so we know there's one back there. It would just be a matter of determining exactly where it is and where its buffers are located.
Okay. Thank you.
Like, do you guys know what the parameters are, like, for the buffers? Like what is, I guess, like, what's the rule, basically?
Yeah, stream buffer is measured from or applied from the top of the stream bank 100 feet on either side of the stream at a minimum. If there are any steep slopes or 100-year floodplains or additional features that initial buffer can be bumped out farther, but it's a minimum 100 feet from the top of bank on either side of the stream.
So, okay, you can't build anything within 100 feet. Okay.
And I will mention that I have seen the stream running on that property in the past in that area. It could potentially be an intermittent stream, in which case you might go out if it's been dry for a while. You may not see the stream running, but that it does mean that it runs during high water table during the wet season. So just because you don't see water running doesn't necessarily mean that there is not a stream that requires a buffer. If there's an intermittent stream there, it still requires a buffer.
Okay. I haven't actually seen it. You've seen it. Do you think it's within that 100 feet? We're within 100 feet of it?
As we look at the map, that's what it looks like. That's why we do the natural resources inventory, though, because that is the process to determine exactly where the stream is and where the buffers extend.
Okay, got it. Okay, so we need to do the natural resources inventory / forest stand delineation, and we need to hire a civil engineer, right?
Yes. And if you have questions about where any of those links are that we've mentioned, feel free to reach out to me and I can send those to you.
Okay, sounds good.
But this is WCC. I know that we don't have comments, but because we didn't receive it time, but you need to show our easements in all these this property. We have easement around all these townhouses, so you need to show it.
We need to show what? The easements for what?
Or water and sewer.
The WSSC easements.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.